Bucky Ball, back to college basketball here. We talked about this a little bit yesterday and on Monday. The fact that, we're 8 games in, 9 games in for some teams. We're now crossing over the halfway mark of the SEC. We do this in football a lot where we're trying to figure out who are the contenders, who are the pretenders as they move forward throughout the course of the year. Texas A&M will get a very tough test tonight.
Yeah, and I think this is probably going to be the toughest test yet. I mean, I think you look at the Tennessee game earlier, that could have been a tough test. But, I mean, they took the Volunteers to, I believe, double overtime and ended up falling in Bucky Ball's first loss of the SEC slate. But, I mean, they sit atop the SEC standings right now, and this is – I feel like they catch this Alabama team at an interesting time. They're 1-2 since Charles Bediako made his return to college basketball. Texas A&M seems to be rolling right now. They've got that formula. As I mentioned on the show a few times, it feels like the first time around these teams think they know what Bucky Ball is until they actually play against Bucky McMillan and these Texas A&M Aggies. So I feel like this is going to be one of those first time around matchups where, it honestly – It could be one of those games where we get a high-scoring blowout maybe.
Yeah.
Or, just one of those low-scoring nights because, I mean, I feel like both of these teams live and die by three-pointers.
Interesting that you bring up the overall total. I just ended up looking at it, the Vegas number. It's almost 180.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised.
79.5. Two of the higher-scoring teams that are in the SEC, and actually two of the higher-scoring teams in the country playing here in this one. And Alabama's actually an 8-point favorite. You mentioned the fact that, hey, catching Alabama at an interesting time.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why is because Alabama just got pasted by Florida there on the road. They had to turn it around very quickly because after losing that game by 23 points, it really felt more like 30, if not more, throughout the course of that game. This is an interesting situation here for Alabama because I do think this Alabama team is kind of facing a gut check time. And if they don't, Nate Oates has said this, if they don't really, play well, they can get blown out again. So we talked about, in football, we talk about playing teams that are angry, playing teams that are mad, and how dangerous that could be. I think Texas A&M is running into that right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you take a look at the last time Alabama came off a loss. I mean, they blew out Missouri by almost 30 points.
Yeah.
I think they won 90-64 against Missouri at home. So it felt like Alabama was impeccable at home up until that Tennessee game, and then it started to show like, okay, this isn't really the Alabama team that we might have thought that they were going to be heading into the season. But in my opinion, for Alabama, it all revolves around LeBaron Philon, and we've been talking about him all year. And as I think I said at the beginning of the season, this team goes where he takes them.
Yes.
And when he turns over the ball 5 times, doesn't really put up a great scoring night, this team isn't really going to go anywhere because I don't want to say he's like the only leader, but he seems, the guys seem to rally around him.
Correct.
And when he's on, some of these other guys start to rally around him. But honestly, I feel like this is a huge week for Nate Oates.
Oh, no question. No question. I think that, for a Nate Oates team that likes to run and gun, they like to get up and down the court, their biggest issue has been rebounding. They got it, Charles Bediako. He's played 3 games. Alabama's lost 2 of them. I do think that there is a path for Alabama to be a great team. They're not playing like a great team right now. Of course, now out of the top 25 officially. Probably could have done that last week as well. Texas A&M not in the top 25, but I think this goes a long way for Alabama there as they move forward for this year's team. Meanwhile, on the Texas A&M side, going back to them, this is a team I think has flown under the radar for a little bit because if you would have said at the beginning of the season that Texas A&M through the halfway point of the SEC would have 7 wins out of 8 and be the top seed overall, if this tournament started today, Texas A&M is the 1 seed in the SEC. That is, I think they would have taken it. So so I think that even with a new coach and everything else, they are kind of perfectly positioned, like you said, from a confidence standpoint, to be able to take that next step moving forward.
Yeah, and it almost feels like those back-to-back losses to Oklahoma State and UCF were 2-3 years ago.
Correct.
I mean, what they've been able to do since then, it seems like the players have truly bought into the system. And I think also at the same time, Bucky learned how he needed to coach at this level.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, going from Samford up to Texas A&M, it's going to be two completely different styles of play. And
right.
when you're starting to play these Power 4 teams over and over again, and don't get me wrong, UCF and Oklahoma State, they're really good programs because they play in the Big 12, which before the SEC's reign of dominance here over the last 2 years,
right.
Big 12 was the cream of the crop before the ACC was. So,
yes.
I mean, both of those teams were in great conferences, and I think what he learned from that, he applied to this slate, and a lot has been made about the schedule that they've had. But again, they don't make the schedule.
No,
the SEC makes the schedule.
Correct.
So, I mean, they're just playing the guys in front of them. I think this is the game that, I think a lot of haters can be silenced by this game because a lot of people have been talking about that schedule. And as you mentioned, this game means a lot to him, whether he wants to admit it or not. It definitely means it's a little bit extra to him.
No question about it. Bucky McMillan is from Mountain Brook, Alabama, about 45 minutes away from Tuscaloosa, and he talked about returning to Alabama, now getting this game in Coleman Coliseum.
Just another SEC game. They've been good, and always good to get a chance to go see a lot of people you know, just like when we were at Auburn. Hopefully we have the same results as Auburn. That's what you're after, is just to play well and let it fall where it may. I've seen a lot of games in there. Watch Alabama play a lot, just like most SEC teams. Good team. Didn't play their best game last game. I'm sure they'll come out playing tough and ready to right some of their wrongs in this game. So we'll have to play a good game. We know that. It doesn't matter at all, honestly, because the NCAA tournament committee doesn't care about it, right? You'll see people that will be, the team in there now that's ranked, and if they had to come out the NCAA tournament brackets tomorrow, they wouldn't make the field. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how it is. I would put stock in the rankings if the NCAA tournament committee cared about it. So. All you can do is focus playing your best basketball. If you play well in this league, you're going to end up putting yourself in a great chance to be in the NCAA tournament and to obviously get the best seed possible, and that's what you're after.
Full disclosure, Bucky McMillan and I grew up, 10 minutes away from each other. I grew up in Homewood. He grew up in Mountain Brook. I've known Bucky McMillan since like 7th grade. We played basketball against each other. I have to say I'm rooting for him. I find myself rooting for Bucky McMillan going into this game. And it is kind of cool just to see your peers doing it at a really high level and having a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think it definitely helps that he's already made his homecoming earlier in the season. Obviously, they played Auburn earlier this year in one of the craziest endings that we've seen all year. But in a year of crazy endings, crazy coach sound bites, just crazy everything. That was one of the craziest games. But I think that the fact that he's been able to go through this process already once and be able to come out with a win, albeit playing against a different team, that definitely has to comfort him just a little bit. But again, as you mentioned, there's no team more dangerous than a team that just, got blown out.
Right.
And a pretty good team. Don't get me wrong, Alabama's a pretty good team.
Yep.
They got blown out by a Florida team that looks like they might be on another run back to the Final Four, maybe even the national championship.
Absolutely.